My best friend saved me from rock bottom, then spent 2 years secretly planning to steal the $25 million project I built for us while sleeping with my girlfriend. They thought I was too grateful and broken to ever fight back. They were wrong. My name is Marcus, and I want to tell you how my best friend of 20 years systematically destroyed my life while pretending to help me. How I orchestrated the most satisfying revenge that left him with absolutely nothing. It all began 3 years ago when I was going through the worst period of my life. My wife Alina and I were getting divorced after she had an affair with her personal trainer. My construction company was struggling due to the economic downturn, and I was drinking too much to cope with the stress. That's when my best friend Kevin stepped in to save me. Kevin Walsh and I had been friends since college. We were both 35 now, and he had always been the golden boy, charismatic, successful, and seemingly loyal. While I had built a modest construction business, Kevin had become a hotshot real estate developer with a beautiful wife, 2 kids, and a mansion in the hills outside Denver. "Marcus, buddy, you can't keep going like this," Kevin said one evening, as he found me drunk at a bar near my office. "You're destroying yourself." "My life is over, Kev," I slurred. "Lena took half of everything, the business is failing, and I can't seem to get my head above water." "Listen to me," Kevin said, putting his hand on my shoulder. "You're my oldest friend. I'm not going to let you go down like this. Let me help you." Over the next few weeks, Kevin became my lifeline. He helped me find a good divorce attorney, loaned me money to keep my business afloat, and even let me stay in his guest house when I couldn't afford rent on my own place. "This is what friends do for each other," Kevin would say whenever I tried to thank him. "You'd do the same for me." Kevin also helped me get sober. He drove me to AA meetings, supported me through the worst of my withdrawal, and celebrated every milestone in my recovery. "I'm so proud of you, man," he said. "After I hit 6 months sober, you're becoming the person you were always meant to be." With Kevin's help, I slowly began rebuilding my life. My construction business started picking up again. I was sober and healthy. And I was even dating again a wonderful woman named Sarah who was a nurse at the local hospital. But the most significant thing Kevin did was offer me a business partnership. "Marcus, I've got a huge development project coming up," he told me over dinner at his house. "Luxury condos, prime location, potential profit in the tens of millions. I want you to be my construction partner." "Kevin, I don't have the capital for something that big." "That's not a problem. I'll handle the financing and land acquisition. You bring your construction expertise and manage the build. We split the profits 50-50. It seemed too good to be true, but Kevin insisted. "Marcus, you're the best contractor. I know, and I trust you completely. This project could set us both up for life." I was hesitant, but Kevin was persistent. "Look, you're still rebuilding from the divorce. This is your chance to get back to where you should be financially." After much consideration, I agreed to the partnership. We signed contracts making me a 50% partner in Walsh Thompson Development, LLC, with Kevin handling the business side and me managing all construction operations. The Riverside Luxury Condominiums project was massive, a $25 million development featuring 80 high-end units overlooking the Colorado River. If successful, we stood to make over $8 million each in profit. I threw myself into the project with everything I had. I hired the best subcontractors, sourced premium materials, and worked 18-hour days to ensure everything was perfect. This was my chance to prove I could build something extraordinary. Kevin seemed equally committed. He secured the financing, handled all the permits and legal requirements, and managed the marketing and sales. We made a great team, and for the first time in years, I felt optimistic about my future. "This is it, Marcus," Kevin said as we stood on the construction site watching the foundation being poured. "This project is going to change everything for both of us." The construction took 18 months, and every day was a testament to my skills and dedication. I was building the finest condominiums in the state, with attention to detail that would make these units legendary. As we neared completion, Kevin handled all the sales and marketing. The units were priced between $400,000 and $600,000 each. And Kevin reported that we had strong buyer interest. "We're going to be rich, buddy," he told me as we walked through the nearly finished building. "I've already got buyers lined up for 60 of the 80 units." But as we approached the final phases of construction, I began to notice some concerning things about Kevin's behavior. First, he became secretive about the financial aspects of the project. When I asked to see the books or meet with our accountant, Kevin would brush me off. "Don't worry about that stuff, Marcus. That's my department. You focus on finishing the construction." "Kevin, I'm a 50% partner. I should know where we stand financially." "You will as soon as we close on the sales. Trust me, everything is going exactly according to plan." Second, Kevin started excluding me from meetings with buyers and real estate agents. Initially, he had included me in these meetings, but as sales picked up, he began handling everything himself. "It's more efficient this way," he explained. "You don't need to waste time in sales meetings when you should be focused on construction." Third, I noticed that Kevin had been spending a lot of time with Sarah, my girlfriend. At first, it seemed innocent. Kevin and his wife Jessica would invite Sarah and me over for dinner, and we'd all hang out as couples. But then I started noticing that Kevin and Sarah would have private conversations that would stop when I approached. Sarah also began mentioning things Kevin had told her about the project that he hadn't shared with me. "Kevin says the condos are selling faster than expected," Sarah mentioned one evening. "He told you that?" "He hasn't given me any recent sales updates." "Oh, it was just casual conversation," Sarah said quickly. "I'm sure he'll tell you all about it soon." The final red flag came when I discovered that Kevin had been making decisions about the project without consulting me. I found out from one of my subcontractors that Kevin had approved expensive upgrades to several units without telling me. Mr. Walsh said to go ahead with the marble countertops and hardwood floors in units 15 through 30, the subcontractor told me. "He said you'd approved it." I had never approved those upgrades, and the additional costs would significantly impact our profit margins. When I confronted Kevin about this, his response was dismissive. "Marcus, these upgrades will increase the sale prices enough to more than cover the costs. Trust me, I know the market. But you should have discussed this with me first. We're partners." "Look, buddy, I appreciate all your hard work on the construction side, but the business decisions are my area of expertise. Let me handle what I do best." I was starting to feel like Kevin was treating me more like an employee than a partner, but I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. After all, he had saved me when I was at my lowest point. Everything came to a head on a Friday evening in November, exactly 2 years after we had started the project. I had been working late on the final punch list items when I realized I had left my phone in Kevin's site office. As I approached the trailer, I heard voices inside Kevin and Sarah. "Are you sure he doesn't suspect anything?" I heard Sarah ask. "Marcus, no way. He's too grateful and too trusting to question anything," Kevin replied with a laugh. "What? He's so focused on the construction work, he has no idea what's really going on with the business side." I froze outside the trailer, my heart pounding. "I still feel bad about this," Sarah said. "He really loves me." "Sarah, baby, we've been through this," Kevin said, and I could hear him moving closer to her. "Marcus served his purpose. He built us a beautiful project, and now it's time to cash out. Once everything is finalized, we'll have millions to start our new life together. What about Jessica and the kids? Jessica will get half in the divorce, which will still leave me with more than enough. And Marcus will get exactly what he deserves." Nothing. I felt like I was going to throw up. My best friend and my girlfriend were having an affair. They were plotting to steal the project I had spent 2 years of my life building. "How can you be sure the legal structure will hold up?" Sarah asked. "The contracts are ironclad," Kevin said smugly. "I had the best lawyers in the state draft them. Marcus thinks he's a 50% partner, but the way the documents are structured, I maintain complete control. He's essentially been working as a contractor this whole time without realizing it." "He's going to be devastated," Sarah said, though she didn't sound particularly concerned. "Marcus will be fine," Kevin said dismissively. "He's a survivor. He'll rebuild, just like he did after his divorce. But this time, he'll do it without taking half of what I've built." I heard them moving around in the trailer, and then Kevin spoke again. Besides, it's not like I'm stealing from him. "I secured the financing, I found the land, I handled all the permits and legal work. Marcus just swung hammers and managed contractors. He should be grateful for the experience." "When are you going to tell him?" Sarah asked. "Right after the final. Sales close next month. By then, all the money will be in accounts he can't access, and there won't be anything he can do about it. I quietly backed away from the trailer and sat in my truck for an hour, processing what I had heard. The two people I trusted most in the world had been systematically planning to destroy me while I built their fortune for them. But as the shock wore off, it was replaced by something much more dangerous. Cold, calculating rage. If Kevin and Sarah thought they could play me for a fool, they were about to discover just how wrong they were. The next morning, I called in sick and drove to the law offices of Patricia Montenegro, one of the most aggressive litigation attorneys in Denver. I had heard about Patricia. Through my divorce proceedings, she was known for taking on cases that other lawyers considered impossible to win, Mr. Thompson. Patricia said after I explained my situation, "Do you have copies of all the partnership documents?" "I have everything," I said, pulling out a folder containing all the contracts Kevin and I had signed. Patricia spent an hour reviewing the documents, and her expression grew increasingly grim. "I'm afraid your friend was right about one thing," she said finally. "These contracts are very cleverly written. While they do establish you as a partner, they give him complete control over all financial decisions and asset distribution." "There's nothing I can do?" "I didn't say that." Patricia smiled coldly. "What I said was that the contracts are cleverly written, but clever isn't the same as legal. If we can prove fraud or misrepresentation in how these contracts were executed, we can void them entirely." Over the next week, Patricia and I developed a comprehensive strategy. She brought in a forensic accountant to review all the project finances. We hired a private investigator to document Kevin and Sarah's affair and gather evidence of their conspiracy. What we discovered was even worse than I had imagined. The forensic accountant found that Kevin had been systematically inflating costs and skimming money from the project budget. Nearly $2 million that should have been profit was sitting in accounts that only Kevin could access. The private investigator found that Kevin and Sarah's affair had been going on for over a year. Starting just months after Kevin had helped me get sober, they had been meeting at expensive hotels and restaurants, all paid for with money from our project. But the most damaging evidence came from Kevin's own communications. The private investigator had discovered that Kevin had been bragging to other developers about his scheme. "I've got my old college buddy building me a $25 million project for free." Kevin had written in an email to another developer, "He thinks we're partners, but he's basically just my unpaid contractor. By the time he figures out what happened, I'll be counting my millions." With all this evidence compiled, Patricia and I were ready to spring our trap. But I wanted to do more than just win in court. I wanted Kevin and Sarah to experience the same betrayal and humiliation they had planned for me. On the Monday morning that Kevin was planning to close the final sales and lock me out of my profits, I implemented my revenge. First, I called a meeting with all of our major buyers and subcontractors at the construction site. I told them I had important updates about the project. When Kevin arrived for what he thought was a routine progress meeting, he found 30 people gathered in the sales office, including several real estate agents and the buyers for the most expensive units. "What's all this?" Kevin asked me privately. "It's just some project updates," I said calmly. "Why don't you tell everyone how the sales are going?" Kevin looked nervous but began his usual sales pitch about how successful the project had been. "Actually, Kevin," I interrupted, "why don't you tell everyone about the real financial structure of this partnership?" Kevin's face went pale. "Marcus, what are you talking about?" I pulled out a folder containing Patricia's legal analysis and the forensic accountant's findings. "I'm talking about the fact that you've structured this entire project to defraud me out of my rightful profits," I said, loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I'm talking about the $2 million you've stolen from project funds. And I'm talking about the affair you've been having with my girlfriend while planning to steal the work I've spent 2 years of my life on." The room went completely silent. "Marcus, you're clearly having some kind of breakdown," Kevin started. I asked, pulling out printed copies of the emails where Kevin bragged about his scheme. I began reading them aloud. As the content of Kevin's emails became clear, the buyers and real estate agents began looking at Kevin with disgust and alarm. "Mr. Walsh," one of the buyers said, "are you saying that Mr. Thompson isn't actually your partner?" "It's complicated," Kevin stammered. The legal structure is fraud," I said firmly. "And every sale made under false pretenses is potentially invalid." Within an hour, half the buyers had withdrawn their offers, and the real estate agents were threatening to report Kevin to the state licensing board. But I wasn't finished. That afternoon, I confronted Sarah at the hospital where she worked. I walked into the emergency department during her shift and asked to speak with her privately. "Marcus, what are you doing here?" she asked, looking panicked. "I know about your affair with Kevin," I said quietly. "I know about your plan to steal my half of the project." Sarah's face crumbled. "Marcus, I can explain." "No need to explain," I said. "I just wanted you to know that I've filed a lawsuit against Kevin that names you as a co-conspirator. You'll be receiving legal papers tomorrow, a lawsuit, fraud, conspiracy, and conversion. Patricia Montenegro is representing me." "Maybe. You've heard of her?" Sarah had clearly heard of Patricia's reputation because she looked like she was going to faint. "Marcus, please, let's talk about this. The time for talking is over, Sarah. You and Kevin made your choice. Now you get to live with the consequences." The legal battle that followed was swift and brutal. Patricia's case was airtight. Evidence of Kevin's fraudulent contracts, his theft of project funds, and his conspiracy with Sarah was overwhelming. When Kevin's own lawyer saw the evidence, he advised immediate settlement. Mr. Walsh's attorney told him, "If this goes to trial, you're looking at potential criminal charges in addition to the civil liability. My strong recommendation is to settle this case immediately." But Kevin's arrogance wouldn't let him give up easily. He hired an expensive legal team and tried to fight the lawsuit. That turned out to be the worst decision he could have made. During discovery, Patricia uncovered even more evidence of Kevin's financial crimes. He had been using investor funds for personal expenses, inflating costs to skim money, and even taking kickbacks from some of the subcontractors. The deeper Patricia dug, the more criminal activity she found. "Marcus, Patricia told me 6 months into the lawsuit, Kevin hasn't just defrauded you. He's been running a systematic scheme to steal from multiple projects and investors. The FBI is now investigating him for wire fraud and money laundering." The criminal investigation changed everything. Kevin's assets were frozen, his real estate license was revoked. His wife Jessica filed for divorce when she discovered the extent of his crimes and his affair with Sarah. Sarah was fired from the hospital when the scandal became public, and she was facing her own civil lawsuit for conspiracy and interference with business relations. But the most satisfying moment came when the final legal settlement was reached. Kevin was ordered to pay me $4.2 million in damages, my rightful share of the project profits plus punitive damages for fraud. He was also ordered to transfer ownership of the entire Riverside project to me. Since Kevin's assets had been frozen and he was facing criminal charges, he had no choice but to agree to the settlement. The project that Kevin thought he had stolen from me became entirely mine. But I wasn't finished with my revenge yet. With full control of the Riverside project, I relaunched the sales with a new marketing strategy. Instead of Kevin's sleazy high-pressure tactics, I emphasized the quality of construction and the integrity behind the project. These condominiums were built by someone who cares about craftsmanship. My new sales materials read, "Reflects a commitment to excellence that you can trust." The units sold faster than they ever had under Kevin's management. Within 6 months, I had sold all 80 units at premium prices, generating over $10 million in profit. The success of the Riverside project established me as one of Denver's most respected developers. I used the profits to launch Thompson Development, focusing on high-quality residential and commercial projects. Within 2 years, I had become more successful than Kevin had ever been, but I had done it honestly and ethically. Meanwhile, Kevin's life completely collapsed. He was convicted on multiple federal charges and sentenced to 8 years in prison. His wife divorced him and got custody of their children, plus half of what remained of his assets. His reputation in the real estate industry was destroyed, and he faced additional civil lawsuits from other investors he had defrauded. Sarah's life fell apart just as dramatically. She lost her nursing license due to the scandal, couldn't find work in healthcare, and was forced to move back in with her parents. The last I heard, she was working as a cashier at a grocery store and still facing lawsuits from Kevin's other victims. The most satisfying part was that Kevin and Sarah's affair didn't survive the consequences of their scheme. As soon as the legal troubles started, they turned on each other. Sarah blamed Kevin for manipulating her, and Kevin claimed Sarah had seduced him into the conspiracy. They ended up as bitter enemies, each trying to minimize their own legal liability by blaming the other. 3 years after Kevin's betrayal, I'm now happily married to Lisa, an architect who works with me on development projects. Lisa is everything. Sarah pretended to be honest, loyal, and genuinely supportive of my success. We have a beautiful home, a thriving business, and a baby on the way. More importantly, we have a relationship built on trust and mutual respect, rather than manipulation and deception. The greatest irony is that Kevin's scheme to steal from me ended up making me far more successful than I would have been if he had been honest. If Kevin had simply honored our original partnership agreement, we both would have made millions and remained friends. Instead, his greed and arrogance cost him everything while launching me to heights I never could have reached alone. Sometimes I think about visiting Kevin in prison just to let him see how well I've done with what he tried to steal from me. But then I realize that the best revenge is simply living well while he serves his time. Kevin thought he could use our friendship to manipulate and betray me. He thought I was too trusting and grateful to see through his scheme. But what Kevin never understood was that trust isn't the same as stupidity. And gratitude doesn't mean you have to accept being robbed. The man who tried to steal my life's work ended up in prison while I built an empire with the integrity he never had. Sometimes the best friends turn out to be your worst enemies, but sometimes that's exactly what you need to discover who you really are and what you're truly capable of achieving. As I watch Lisa work on architectural plans for our next development project, I'm grateful for Kevin's betrayal. Without it, I never would have learned that I didn't need someone else's help to be successful. I just needed to believe in myself and never accept being treated as less than I was worth. The friend who tried to destroy me ended up setting me free to build something far better than anything he ever could have stolen.